Welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Birch, and this podcast, it exists for you. Whether you're a music lover, an educator, a choir member, each week we bring guests to the show to help explore what matters in music. I'm so glad that you're here. Welcome to the show. Hello, and welcome to the Music Ed Matters podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Emily Williams Birch, and this episode today is a special True Change Alliance bonus episode. You're about to meet Dr. Chantae Pittman. Dr. Pittman works in Smyrna, Georgia, and we talk today about the importance and the ways in which you can ensure there is music equity in your choral space. You will walk away with a to-do list for how you too can look inward and make sure that you're offering every opportunity to those wonderful singers in your ensembles. We look at how you can make it happen for everyone, programming, authenticity, and ultimately making sure that everyone in your ensemble feels seen. This is just another wonderful bonus episode brought to you by True Change Alliance. Make sure you check them out. All the details are in the episode notes. You can also connect with Dr. Pittman on those episode notes. If you're looking for connection, the second ever Music Ed Matters Teacher PD Weekend is happening virtually and in person this coming July 23rd, 24th, and 25th. All the details are over at patreon.com/musicedmatters, or you can reach out to me, emilybirch.org/contact. We would love to see you there. The official lineup is announced at patreon.com, and it is going to be such a fun weekend of rejuvenating and inspiring and learning together. Now, without further ado, Dr. Chantae Pittman, our True Change Alliance sponsored guest, and music equity in the choral education spaces. Today on the Music Ed Matters podcast, we have a special True Change Alliance guest, Dr. Chantae Pittman. Hello, Dr. P.
Hey, how are you?
I'm so good. It's so exciting to see you and talk to you today. Thank you for being on the show.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
So you are a newly minted doctor. How did you get to this whole doctor thing? Give us your elevator spiel. Who is Dr. Chantae Pittman?
I am I'm going into my 12th year of choral music education. Born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. I grew up on the South Side. Shout out to Clayco. My mom says I was singing before I was talking. I started singing at the age of 2, and then I was singing in church and Sunbeam Choir, and went through in 6th grade, of course, middle school, you had to make that decision on what ensemble you wanted to be in. And at first, honestly, I thought I was going to be in orchestra. I wanted to play cello. But being that I was like a new 12-year-old girl, I had those little nice acrylic nails that I had just got on for the beginning of the school year. And the orchestra teacher was like, "Oh, you're going to have to cut those." And I was like, "What? I just got these." And I didn't want to do choir.
Problems.
Yes. And I didn't want to do choir because I was like, I already sing, blah, 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 blah. And they wouldn't let you do both because initially I wanted to do both. But they wouldn't let you. So I had to choose. And so I went into the band room, and, the first thing we did was recorder. And then I was like, well, if I play in band, will I have to cut my nails? And my teacher was like, "Oh, no, you're fine." Now, little did I know when I got to college, I was going to have to cut my nails to be able to play the faster stuff. But, we made it through with the whole notes and the half notes and stuff. So then along the way in high school, I played in band. As a freshman, I was first chair in the symphonic band. And then sophomore year, for some strange reason, I saw the notice for drum major auditions for the marching band, and I made it as a sophomore. So I was drum major sophomore, junior, and senior year.
Wow.
At my school. And I think just being in that situation where I was leading the ensemble, I really was like, "Oh, I really like this. I really like this. I think I'm going to be a music teacher." And I had known I wanted to be a teacher for probably since I was in kindergarten. But it was always a toss up between like history and English. And those are the two things that I love doing the most outside of music. So it's, you know, nice little combination there. Um, but I finally set my sights on being a music educator. And then my junior year, I said, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor by 30. And that was the goal. And I was on track for a little while, and then I got a little derailed, but it's okay. I made it. Doctor by 33. That's fine.
Yes.
So I after I graduated from high school, I went to college at Tennessee State University in Nashville. Shout out to the Aristocrat of Bands. I was in the wind ensemble. I was section leader there my junior and senior year. I played in the marching band, of course, because that's what paid for school. I was section leader there my senior year. And then I went on and I was like, okay, it's time to graduate. So let's look for a job. It was late in the game. I almost went to Ole Miss for music ed and performance. And I got the call to open up a school as a choral director, as a first year teacher, opening up a school. And I did. And I wound up taking the job and wound up for 2 years. I had the largest program, music middle school program. So I built that program from the ground up. And then went on to teach at another school, and I was there for 7 years. And then wound up where I am now. So it's fun. I got my master's degree at Vandercook College of Music in Chicago, and then took a year to breathe a little as I looked for doctoral programs. And then I decided upon the University of Georgia and their summer EDD program called the SEAT program, which would allow me to continue teaching while I pursued my doctorate. And so that's what I decided to do because your girl got bills. And so, but I think it really influenced a lot of what uh, of how I perceive my teaching philosophy. It very much so evolved because I was in that specific situation where I was still teaching as well as going through those classes. And it really informed a lot of what I did as far as my research and reading, which is why my dissertation was on music equity.
I love it. And that's what we're about to talk about. But you set a goal for yourself and you didn't let anything derail you. That is such right there. That is something to hang on to. Life's going to
Yeah,
throw you curveballs, but you still got there.
yeah, my music ed professor, shout out to Dr. Reeves. She when I graduated, like when I came back because I took my kids to Nashville to perform at TSU. And she was like, I've always been so proud of you. You always had, she's like, I would see you in the hallway and you have your little blinders on because you were just like, I gotta do it. I gotta do it. Yeah. And I've always been like that. And I like thrive in pretty structured environments. So it sometimes it seems like if it's not structured for me, it's kind of chaotic, but that's kind of how my brain works. Neurodivergence, yay. But anyways.
Tossing some good words there.
Yeah.
I want to go back to this question where you got your degree in instrumental and your first job was opening a brand new middle school choir. So can you tell us how that went? Give us some of these great details.
So the first interview that I had was a completely band job. I didn't get it. The second job was band and choir. I didn't get it. And then the third job, of course, was the chorus job. And the chorus job wound up being in my hometown. So in the county that I grew up in, I literally was working down the street from the middle school and high school that I went to. So I was very familiar with the area, and I was like, oh, this is kind of serendipitous. I was like, oh, huh. So I knew off top that I had to do of a lot of research and reading, and that's my sweet spot. If I don't know something, I'm always going to ask, or I'm going to read, or sometimes it's a combination of both. So I had tons of stuff tons of the little handbooks or getting started with middle school. I know Sousa, not sopranos, stuff like that. And I did have some experience in choir. I did take choir my senior year in high school. I took lessons in college because I still wanted to have that experience. And so I think I did myself a service by doing both of those things, because I had some little semblance of experience with it. But it was probably one of the most beneficial things for my career. Um, because ever since then, I've been in situations where I've had to rebuild programs.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and building a program from scratch with no one to blame about it being good or bad. It's just
Mm-hmm.
all on you. It really makes you really appreciate when you go into situations where you don't have to do quite as much foundation and groundwork. So
I love that you acknowledge the struggle and the challenges, but then you also say it's your responsibility to find the answers, whether that's asking or reading, because I think that's
oh
so
yeah,
important. So many
yeah.
people are first to ask and haven't done any of the research yet. So I love that you were doing both.
Oh, absolutely. And not only in, the professional world, but, in the world itself, especially with all this social justice and stuff happening. I'm like, have you done any actual
Mm-hmm.
research on any of these topics that you are talking about right now? So,
It's so real.
yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
what a cool start and what a great way to get into it. So now we can kind of talk a second about your research. So how you said that you got peaked into music equity in choral situations especially. So talk to us about where the interest came from and what did your dissertation give us some theses or something fun to talk about.
So as far as music equity is concerned, I um, taught primarily in Title I schools and either Title I districts. Um, my first district, my home district, is Title I, the entire district. And then, of course, my second school position was also Title I, and the entire um, county is Title I. The current school that I teach at is not currently designated Title I, but upon looking at the qualifications, my school meets it. So that's a conversation that I'll probably have with my principal in the fall. Um,
Yes.
but basically, if you were unclear or if the audience was unclear about Title I, so Title I is federal funding that is provided to public schools and actually also private schools that meet the qualification of students who receive free and reduced lunches. So they're in the free and reduced lunch program. And these are usually typically your high transient students of usually color, Black and brown color. And um, I just felt, the need for more awareness of these students, and they don't have any control over the family that they are birthed into. So they don't control, they don't work at the time that they start school. They don't work at all. So they can't contribute to, the socioeconomic status of their home life. And so you have all these students who are incredibly talented, but they're unable to do these different things for whatever reason. Usually it's because there's a registration fee or there's a cost to a trip or something like that. And I would make it my mission to make sure that everyone who wanted to participate, be it district honor choir or an all state or just a field trip, or was able to make it happen. And that will continue to be my philosophy, because sometimes music and being in these ensembles is the only opportunity for some of these students to get out of the community. And that's one of my goals and missions as a choral music educator. We have a unique opportunity to always have instances where we can go and perform or see a performance and things of that nature. And so I just like to make sure that everyone who wants to participate is able to. And so I've been doing fundraising and writing grants, and now looking at federal funding for the programs to maximize and allow myself as well as others who are in similar situations to know that that funding is out there, so that they're not just having to sell Krispy Kreme donuts all the time.
Or chocolate bars. You actually took the question right out of my mouth. I was about to say, what are some of the ways? But you said fundraising, grants, and now you're looking at federal grants, which if you didn't go to the NAM Advocacy Summit a couple weeks ago, they had a
Heard about
huge
it.
session
Mm-hmm.
on the grants available through this new thing, especially for public schools.
Yeah.
But their website has tons of details on that. How exciting. Okay, so what type of fundraisers do you do if you don't sell Krispy Kremes? Or do you sell Krispy Kremes?
We I said that, but we actually do. So
hey, I'm a huge fan. Good choice.
I was like, yeah, we've done that. At my new school, ROTC does that a lot. So we don't like to have fundraisers at the same time, but we sell pop and popcorn. That's been one of our recent big things. We've had a Breakfast with Santa event where we send our flyers out to the elementary schools, and they come and it's all you can eat pancake breakfast. They get to meet Santa, take pictures, decorate cookies, make ornaments, face painting, all this so cute stuff. We've done that, of course. We have ticketed events. We have donation suggested events. You know how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
Raffles, and just simple donations. We have business donors, business partners as well. And so those, they help float a little bit. And of course, sometimes we have some parents who will help out and they're like, hey, this is for whoever. Or sometimes my kids designate who the additional funding goes to, as far as helping pay for, a uniform or a t-shirt or whatever. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds like you've built such a community. So how do you know who needs help? Have you just built that type of rapport with your students, or is there a way that they let you know that they need help?
I put on all of my forms, like any type of time that I'm asking for, for payment of some sort. I'm just like, if you need to make other arrangements, you can. We can do a payment plan, or if this is just not going to be feasible for whatever reason, just let me know. And we kind of build in extra support within our activity fees. And so once the first year, after the first year, the activity fee goes down because you're not paying for your uniform. And so that's a little bit more manageable. And so we're able to kind of self inflate. And so we can support those who aren't able to, because of course, we're not supposed to deny a student the opportunity to perform in an ensemble based upon their income. That's dumb. So
Yes, very.
everyone is able to sing, and I want everyone who wants to sing to be in my ensemble. So
I love that. That's a mindset, and like you said before, it's your philosophy, and you can tell how real you are and how much you really do devote by how you're talking about it. So you make sure that the families and the students know. You build it in the fundraising and the funding in a variety of ways. What are other non-financial things that you do to ensure equity in your choral space?
absolutely. So definitely music programming, and talking, not just, passively saying, oh, this is a Korean folk song. Well, Korean folk song not written by someone of that ethnicity is kind of inauthentic. So I try to be as perform works that are as authentic as possible. Or if it's not by someone of that, ethnicity, it's someone who's done a lot of research. And so that it's not just, like I said, performative. Definitely including more works of women. I absolutely, I've been doing that. And before it became like the in thing to do, I was doing that because as a Black woman in a choral field, regardless, it's still heavily male dominated in the music world. And so, having students, especially because, of course, a lot of times you have more ladies than guys. So, you just want to be able to have the students see themselves in the music. And of course, doing a lot of music by Black and Latinx composers, music by LGBTQIA composers as well. So I have to make sure I got all those letters right. So,
And the plus
um,
plus at the end sometimes.
and sometimes a plus at the end. And you just want to make sure that all of our students are seen,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes, in their little bubble, that's the only time that they get to experience diversity.
Mm-hmm.
And you want your students to have a real world experience with another person, um, with a person who differs from themselves, which helps to quell a lot of the misconceptions about race and culture that's happening in the world today. I'm thankful to have mostly always taught in very diverse settings. The school that I teach at right now is the largest school in the district, and it is the most diverse. And so the populations are about 5 to 10% around each other. We are 39% African American, 31% Latinx Hispanic population, and then 20% white, and then the rest are your mixed and your other, as they call them. And so, with that composition, it's a very, very diverse school. And so, walking the halls, you see the different cultures and you see the different ethnicities, and it's a great place to be. And I always love being in those diverse settings as far as making music, because the sounds, it just
Mm-hmm.
sounds different. It's a different sound. And so I love drawing from all of those different inspirations when I'm building my program, and when I'm trying to develop the family atmosphere and the camaraderie, because if they feel the ownership of the program, they usually buy into it more. And the performances and the experiences just mean that much more to them.
I think one of the big takeaways of what you just said for people listening is take a second and go figure out what your demographics are at your school. Don't just
Oh,
assume,
absolutely.
dig in and know.
Absolutely. And then, as you take stock of that, you need to look at your choir and see if your choir is reflective of that. Is your program
Mm-hmm.
reflective of that? If the only people you see are the people who look like you, are you really maintaining that you're recruiting, are you
Mm-hmm.
recruiting equitably in your program? And so if not, there is a reason. And so then you have to see what the reason is. Is it just because I'm performing XYZ? So it takes a lot of looking inward sometimes with your
Mm-hmm.
teaching practice. And if you've been teaching for more than 5 or 10 years, sometimes you have to look back at your teaching practice, and also look back at your music library and purge.
Mm-hmm.
Woo! My current school story, my current school is well over probably 70, 60 or 70 years old, and I still
Mm-hmm.
have music that was in the original school. And our school has this crazy history, but I won't go into all that. But little, I will just say that the school's name has changed like 3 times, so
Oh.
I still have music from its original name. And so, going through all of that stuff, and I made a TikTok on this. I was like, "Hey guys, hey, if you've been teaching, or your school is older than this many years, you need to check your library and toss everything that's not appropriate."
I bet that's a doozy. Hey,
Yeah,
speaking of Instagram, you have TikTok, you have Twitter,
I have everything
you
basically.
have
Yeah.
all the things. And what's your handle? I'll put it in the notes, but what's your
I'm
handle so people can follow you?
I'm such a millennial. It is at the with two E's doc P for everything. Facebook is just my name. So
Yes, awesome. I love it. I said at the beginning, your t-shirt game is on point. I love seeing what t-shirts you have on. And even
Yeah,
today you have a gorgeous poem on your shirt. And I think that is just,
yeah.
you are living the real vision that I can hear you are passionate about. And that is beautiful to see and oh so inspiring.
Oh, thank
So
you.
for someone who's ready to look inward, I think our steps would be one, make sure that there is equal access to funds and resources to be able to go to events, be a part of events. B, look at your programming and your selecting.
Hmm.
And your C, look at your teaching practices. And then D, make sure all of those things combined create a choir that reflects the percentages and the diversity of your school.
Hmm.
Did I leave anything out? I think I got a pretty good to-do list
I
out of
was
that
like, you
conversation.
got a really, yeah, definitely summed it up. Bullet point style. Absolutely. Yeah.
I love it. I'm really thrilled that you are sharing this, and I can't wait to touch base and see what you guys sound like. What are your plans for next year? I know this is not related to the topic, but I want to know as we're going into the year ahead, what are you planning? You're done with the doc, you're like back
Yeah.
in your school full time, no schoolwork to do.
I I don't know. I really I guess it's because I never really like stopped like making sure that my program was there and top notch. And even though I literally was in school for 6 semesters straight through, so literally 18 semesters, because summer, fall, spring, summer, fall, spring, since the summer of 2015. But I always had 4 concerts at least. We always did some sort of field trip to see a musical. um, and in the springtime, of course, we always had our large group performance evaluation, and we would try to take a spring trip, either local or overnight. And so that's basically what we're going to be doing coming up this year, uh, pending, the calming down of the panini, as they
Hmm.
call it. So this year, actually, we are going to be kicking off the school year with a performance at our Major League Baseball game. We're going to be singing at the Braves game for the
Cool.
national anthem. And yeah, the Braves relocated to Smyrna, which is where my school is located. And so we're like 10 minutes out from the stadium. So I was like,
That's
why not?
amazing.
Oh, and it's funny. They were like, this is the first time that they've ever sung at the Braves game. Oh my God, Miss Pittman or Dr. Pittman, you're so awesome. I was like, well, we got to make sure that these tickets get sold and, you know, and make sure that we got everybody that we need to get. But of course, like I said, we'll make it happen for those students who can't afford, the stuff like that. But I'm excited about that. We are fortunate enough to have some very generous community members who have been paying into the SPLOS Fund, which is the special local penny local options sales tax. And so we have a new academic building going up, 3-story academic building.
Whoa.
Expansion on the cafeteria is going to be like 2-story kind of college type feel. I know, right?
Whoa.
New expanded library, and the library is going to be absolutely gorgeous. And if you know me, I read, so I might be there a couple of planning periods a week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And absolutely love my librarians. They're so phenomenal. And then, of course, last but not least, we have a new performing arts building that's going up in our backyard. So we get a 750-seater theater, humongous stage, lots of storage. There's 4 dressing rooms in the building, black box theater. So, yeah.
Whoa. Okay, I can't wait.
Yeah,
Well, whenever you're looking for your next overnight trip, I hope you come down to Savannah. We're not too far away from you. We can plan
absolutely.
that together. That would be so much fun
Oh yeah,
to
I
meet
love
all your
doing choir
kiddos.
exchanges and stuff like that and visiting. So yeah,
We'll put that on the back of your burner, and sometime you'll have to come down here.
absolutely.
That
Yeah.
would be really fun. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Pittman, for sharing your story and your thoughts on music equity. And I feel like I have a to-do list to go sit and look inward and make sure that I'm doing all these things. I feel like you've made it really clear, and I just want to reevaluate because that's
Yeah,
important right now.
It's always good. It's always good to be looking at ways that you can do things, either, with more thought in mind, or sometimes just more efficiently.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all about being very efficient.
Obviously, you have to be. Well, before we sign off, I always let the guest give the listeners one thing that really matters.
Yeah.
And then you have something a little extra at the very end, thanks to our friends at TCA. So let's start with that. What's one thing you want the listener to walk away with that really matters?
Um, I've said this before, but my teaching philosophy is that any and all student who wants to participate in music should be offered the opportunity to participate, regardless of ethnicity, social, economic status, um, you know, how they feel, or how they present as far as their gender, sexuality, or their, ability, physical ability. And we need to make sure that we are remembering that we are probably some of the most influential people that they'll have in their lives, because we
Mm-hmm.
have them for so long, or generally we have them for so long. And so we have to help prepare our students for the world. And the ways that we do that are creating those communities uh, of understanding and love and peace within our environments. And hopefully our students will take from that and become, I call them my minions, but will become, well-rounded and um, just beautiful human beings um, who will fight for each other, who will, will go to a march for social justice for each other, for who will go to a march for Pride Month and stuff like that. And it's just, everyone deserves the opportunity to be seen. And as teachers, we have to realize, as teachers of music especially, that it's not always about that performance. It's about the people who are doing the performing. And so we just have to remember that we teach more than music. Oftentimes, we teach life, and we teach life
Mm.
skills and how to deal with things and learning team building. And so sometimes, as teachers of music, in a very, like, most likely performance heavy situation, especially if you're very competitive like me. But we have to take a step back sometimes and remember that it's not about us. It's not about us. It's about the people we teach and the people we are in front of every day.
Oh, that's beautiful. Here's the last question. TCA slogan, Dare to be the change. The D in the acronym stands for Decide to make a change. I think you've pretty much answered this, but let's sum it up in one sentence. At what point did you decide to make a change, either in your work, your research, your life, or in some other arena?
Inwardly, I would say that I started making that decision probably in my fourth year of teaching, especially regarding equity and making sure my students had the necessary materials and equipment that they needed to have a good performance. Outwardly, it was probably most definitely last year. Um, I was very inwardly distressed, and I didn't really talk much about political things, or social justice things, or things that were happening in the government on the internet. But after Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, I definitely completely flipped. And I'm in the situation where I'm able to talk freely, for the most part, about social issues on social media, and I definitely felt the need to do that. Not only, about those issues, but also about teacher advocacy as well,
Mm-hmm.
between what was happening with those horrific events, as well as a pandemic, and teaching in a pandemic. Um, I just felt like at that time I just needed, you know, it, I was tired of being silent. It felt obviously. And so there are things that I needed to say. And I felt like at that time, I finally had the opportunity to say it and the platform to say it. And so I just started going at it. So, and insert news articles and interviews and podcasts and X, Y, and Z and later. I just feel like, you know, we can't feel like we don't exist in politics, because public education in itself was political. So it kind of makes my nose frown up when people say we can't have politics. There should be politics in public education. I was like, do you know why we have public education? And so, you know, it's so crazy. And I'm just like, this is how we know that you're not a teacher, because we learned that in insert methods class here. Yes. So, you know, yeah.
Well, I love how if people aren't following you on social, y'all pause and go jump to the notes section, because I have all your socials linked in there. It is really inspiring, and I love all the books that you recommend. I have a list going of all the books that you've recommended, so I can wheedle them into my book, because I'm also a super reader. I read like a bajillion pages a day. It's my unwind time. But this has been so much fun, and I know that you are going all over doing presentations and all sorts of stuff. I cannot wait to see you with I think you have some really big things coming up with Hal Leonard and their education series and all sorts of great stuff. So thank you for your contributions. It's an honor to get a chance to talk to you.
Absolutely. I'm so glad to finally meet and talk with you.
All right. Well, we will talk more soon. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
What does your school, your choir, your community look like? Does your choir reflect that? What music are you programming? What processes and methods are you using to teach to ensure that every single amazing human in your classroom is being seen? I love what Dr. Pittman said when she said, we teach more than music, we teach life. So my dear friend, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Please know that whatever you're doing, it really matters, because you are impacting the lives of every musical person that you are in front of or singing to or crossing paths with. We all know that music matters. And I'll see you next time on the Music Ed Matters podcast.